Welcome to a new edition of Planet Waves TV. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, here with your weekly astrology and world affairs check-in. Before I get going on that stuff, first couple of house announcements. One is that we are beginning work on and will be ready by the end of the year with a reading called Tune In 2022. These will be my 2022 hybrid audio and video readings. The Planet Waves annual edition, of which this is a part, is a long tradition going back to 1999 in an unbroken chain. So I'm looking forward to putting that together for you. And if you're on our email list, look for an email either Sunday or Monday night. Additionally, there'll be the season finale of Planet Waves FM tonight, the 12th, Friday the 12th. Going up, planetwaves.fm is the home of Planet Waves FM, and those programs, they go up and they stay up. And I've got a special program for you for the close of my, I usually do like a 6 to 8 week mini season. So this will be the last one. I'm taking a break for the Thanksgiving holiday. Tonight I will have 2012 Revisited with Mayan explorer and Mayan astrology expert Ed Barnhart. He's actually a calendar keeper and a surveyor of Mayan pyramids. He's a PhD and former professor and instructor on great courses, and also he runs a thing called the Mayan Exploration Center. And I found him on TV and wrote to him, and he wrote back to me, and we have a lovely interview revisiting the whole 2012 phenomenon. What was that about? What was it supposed to be? What actually happened? And what were the actual implications in the Mayan calendar, particularly in the long count? He does a fantastic job of explaining that further. I have an interview with Ty Burnett, who won 2 libel lawsuits against the newspaper that I used to work for, the Woodstock Times, which has become a very naughty newspaper in recent years. Ty was libeled not once but twice, the second time while there was a case pending, which really made it look like they were just out to get her. And they had to pay her a lot of money. We don't know how much, but the lawsuits were for $8 million. And I know she didn't get quite that much, but whatever she got, she deserved. They turned her life into hell. Some of you may remember the escapades of the Woodstock Times and various other bad actors in this community in 2018. I will have more to say about that. And I'm looking right across the street at the barbershop of a guy named Joseph Lalima. We had an interview on Planet Waves FM over the summer with Joe Lalima because this same newspaper group claimed that he gave 12 cops COVID when he didn't even have COVID. Not that anyone can have COVID, but he didn't. He didn't test positive. He was never hospitalized for it. He did have COPD. He did spend the night in the hospital with COPD. And then the governor picked up on what was written in the Kingston Times by Jesse Smith, and Joe's barber's license was taken away at the age of 79. So more on that on Planet Waves FM. Additionally, I've begun a program called the Branching of the Road. The old one was the Miracle Hour. It's kind of an extension of or reintroduction of A Course in Miracles for those who are interested in the subject. I know that there's a lot of let's say spiritual opening up happening right now, and much of it is consistent with the ideas and the principles of A Course in Miracles. So I am doing that again. Who knows? Maybe I can bring that into a video format. People seem to like video format. What on earth else? Okay, so I think that covers it on house announcements. All 4 minutes for it. No, not quite. Anyway, so first some astrology. As I am recording today, the sun is exactly trine Neptune. That happens twice a year, and it is an easing of tensions, an easing of pressure, and an intuitive opening and a creative opening, and the blend is Pisces to Scorpio, or Pisces Sun to Scorpio. No, Scorpio Sun to Neptune in Pisces, and so that's watery and intuitive and sexual and creative and all kinds of good things in a world where a lot of bad things are happening at the moment, and we need to get a grip on that. I may have more to say about that in a moment. Let's take we'll get a little more of a summary, and by the way, I will give a more detailed summary of the current astrology in a newish podcast that I do called STARCAST, which is available on planetwaves.net or starcast.fm. Twice a week, I give about a 20-minute summary of the astrology, and I'm very focused on it. Okay, so currently the moon is in Pisces. The moon is about to form a conjunction to a slow-moving conjunction that's been building in Pisces for a long time, and will be there for a little while. It involves an asteroid called Pallas Athene. That is an asteroid associated with law and politics, and a centaur planet called Nessus. Centaurs aren't asteroids. Centaurs are much, much further from the sun. They're slower moving. They tend to be icier, but I'm not really sure of the composition of Nessus. And the moon's going to pass through this today, and this is presaging Jupiter passing through the territory early next year. Jupiter is going to enter Pisces on December 29th. I'll come back to that in a moment, but they do have one theme in common, which is we're going to see a lot about how nefarious government and corporate officials have been. Criminals will always try to keep getting away with their crime until they can't get away with it anymore, and many will assert their innocence even in the face of blatant evidence proving their guilt. And there are people who will just go along with the assertion of innocence no matter what the evidence says. So the moon will pass through this a little bit later on Friday. Who knows when you're listening? I know this particular program collects its hits over about 5 or 6 days. But when we get into Jupiter in Pisces, which begins again 12/29, Jupiter enters Pisces and will gradually apply into a conjunction for the first few months of next year, and that conjunction will be with the Pallas-Nessus conjunction, and so it's really going to magnify the extent of the extent of the conduct of these bad actors. I mean, it really is ridiculous, and at this stage, you have to be absolutely fully committed to denial to not notice what is so plainly obvious. So we get a bit of that today on Friday, and then a bit more of it next year. As far as I'm concerned now, the biggest and most significant astrology is a sextile forming between Saturn in Aquarius and Chiron in Aries. Now, the theme of our time and the theme of the astrology of our time is the relationship of the individual and the group. That's an awfully big glass when you're on video. The relationship of the individual and the group, and we see this illustrated beautifully in the relationship between Chiron in Aries and Saturn in Aquarius. We have seen a lot of the darkest side of Aquarius coming out in terms of all of this bullying and pressure for people to treat others as if they're sick when they're perfectly healthy. We've redefined the whole concept of sickness as health. Now it's the healthy people who are a threat to the sick people, when it should be this, in theory anyway, the sick people who are a threat to the healthy ones. I'm not sure either of those is true, but certainly the only thing that a healthy person, that is someone who's not contagious or being treated for a disease or acting in a crazy fashion, is a threat to, is the state of mind of people who are firmly and fully committed to their delusions. And delusion is an important state of dis-ease, of unwellness. And it is an ego state that is very easily threatened by love, by wellness, by people being happy. The state of dis-ease is, among other things, a state of misery and a state of lack. And so those who are feeling like they've got what they need and who are feeling like they're abundant certainly can piss off people who, want to live in a world where, a world of constant threat. So there are a number of manifestations of where the individual and the group meets, and we've seen a lot of them go by this year. And one of them is this incessant bullying. One of the most impressive. Aaron Rogan is a football player who refuses to take this injection that has killed now. The federal government in the U.S. admits it's killed 18,000 people. I don't blame anybody for not wanting to inject a product into their body that's killed 18,000 people. But he is perfectly healthy. He got a PCR positive, which is proof of nothing because there is no test and there is no live virus with which to prime the test to test for live virus in the community. So the test, as I have reported, hundreds of times in many different ways, is not only invalid, it's a complete work of fraud. And yet the whole world is bullying this guy, perfectly healthy young guy who's a quarterback. I mean, he's at the height of his physical power, and the quarterback is the game in football. And he doesn't want to risk the fate of so many others. So we've seen this bullying side of Aquarius, but there's also something else going on, which is that new groups are forming, and the groups are forming in unusual constellations, which seem to be kind of coalitions of ex-liberals and level-headed conservatives finding out how much common ground they share. And I've always known this. I've just seen this happen so many times because my politics are pretty classically liberal, pretty classically left, and yet often in politics and in journalism, the people who've been the most supportive and harmless, or the least mean or perfectly harmless, are people I supposedly don't agree with. And now we're seeing this, and I'm very happy about this, seeing this quite a bit in the world of people making friends with people they never possibly thought they could make friends with. And it's nice to discover a friend, and it's also nice to discover that you were wrong about something. So this, I think, is a function of Chiron in Aries, which is defying the normal or the typical concept of what it might mean to be who you are, and using the key-like quality of Chiron in creating an opening of a certain kind. And so we've got this an opening, and also one of the things that Chiron is the most effective at and the most famous for is its ability to stand apart, to stand out, to not conform. The first keyword for Maverick, for Chiron, given to it by its discoverer, an astronomer, not an astrologer, is Maverick. It was Charles Kowal, the discoverer of Chiron, way back in 1977, who said, "This thing is a maverick." And when astrologers started to pick up on this discovery, the word maverick was the very first keyword given to Chiron, the astrological thing, rather than just an astronomical thing, and it came from an astronomer. So maverick means standing out. Maverick was a rancher who refused to brand his cattle. So he was he was a rancher, but he didn't find it necessary to unnecessarily harm or cause pain to these beasts he was taking care of, and and then that word became a word in the English language. So what is happening astrologically is that we are in the gradual approach of an alignment between Chiron in Chiron in Aries and Saturn in Aquarius. They are going to form their third and final sextile for this cycle. The other two were on. Oops, I have my notes, but I have. I'm all ready with my cue card, and then I closed the notebook here. I don't usually use cue cards, but I thought, why not seem a little more organized for a change? The alignments were February 9th, June 24th, and then the last one will be November 26th. And then there'll eventually be the conjunction of Saturn and Chiron. That's coming up in quite a while. But the sextile is a 60-degree aspect, and it's an aspect of perfect balance between the two planets involved. And by that measure, it creates balance between the two signs that the planets are occupying. So we really need some balance between the individual and the group here. And I think more than anything, we need to understand that the reality is there is no such thing as individual rights as apart from the rights of the people. There's this idea that that to assert one's individual rights is in some way selfish, but to assert one's individual rights is to stand up for everyone. It's not just about you. No one's asking for the right to drive through red lights during rush hour. The problem of those who are claiming that it's wrong to assert individual rights is, well, somehow those like this star quarterback are somehow threatening other people by themselves not wanting to get hurt. And the genuine collective value there is that you might agree with this thing being mandatory, but you might not agree with the next thing being mandatory. But because you agreed with this thing being mandatory, the next thing being mandatory can come in. And so the question is not whether you agree with the thing, the thing. Again, I make a hypodermic injection symbol. What's the American Sign Language for the hypodermic injection? But rather the mandatory part. And so what we get now is a third chance this year to consider that there is a necessary, stable relationship between the concepts of individual and group, that we do need to respect this and remember that it is about self-respect and also about protecting the rights of everyone, because the rights of anyone are the same as the rights of everyone. And I really don't understand how that is so hard to understand, except for the constant, never-ending, non-stop propaganda campaign to the contrary. One last thing for today's program is that we're about to experience a Venus retrograde a little bit later in the year. It's coming right up, actually, in a few weeks. Venus is retrograde, the least of all the planets. Venus is retrograde for about 6 weeks out of every 18 months. So it is retrograde only, I think, 8% of the time. And so it is retrograde the least of all the planets. Mars is second least. Mars is retrograde about 9% of the time. And this Venus retrograde will be entirely in Capricorn, and Venus is about to arrive in the degrees. Well, I can't really see too good here, but why don't we pretend to be an astrology podcast and have a chart? That's not working so good. Right there, Venus will be retrograde entirely in Capricorn, and the development coming right up is that Venus will be entering the degrees where it will be retrograde on the 17th. That's called the shadow phase of Venus. My nice shadowy shot here. I'm not sure how shadowy it's going to look when we put it on YouTube. But anyway, Venus enters its shadow phase on the 17th when it crosses over about 10.5 degrees of Capricorn. So as of today, Venus is at about 6.5 degrees of Capricorn. When it gets to 10.5 degrees, it enters its shadow phase. It will station retrograde on the on the 19th of December. It'll station direct on the 29th of January. And so late in the year, there are a couple of events that are related because they happen at around the same time, and we'll see what other ways they're related. But one of them is the Venus station's retrograde in Capricorn, but a nice sign for Venus to be in, by the way. Venus does well in the earth signs, especially Taurus and Capricorn. And then Jupiter enters water sign Pisces. And what I see the relationship being in, I mean, these obviously Venus is a very private and individual and personal planet, but when we bring in the sign Capricorn, that expands things to a familial or family level of thinking, but also can affect all of society, in particular affect government functions and corporate functions. And when during the Venus retrograde, when Jupiter makes its way out toward Pallas and Nessus, we're going to see a lot that we were missing. All right, so that is most of what I have to say in this format. I'm going to go home and upload this video to Kate in Ukraine, who produces these videos for us, and then I'll be recording STARCAST, and then I'll be recording the rest of Planet Waves FM. Much of it's already done, so whenever you're watching on the website, it's always worth checking this. I know a lot of people don't go to the Planet Waves FM website. They think everything's on planetwaves.net. Plenty on planetwaves.net, but I'm the sole contributor to Planet Waves FM, and its actual producer and editor, and great stuff there. Don't miss the Vaxaholics Anonymous sketch. That's got a bottle of vodka and a hypodermic needle. It's right on the cover of planetwaves.fm, and lots of other good stuff that I'm just adding as I find things or make things and sharing them with you. And if you like what I do at Planet Waves, please consider becoming a member. Please consider availing yourself of the beautiful reading products that I do. We do not take advertising. We do not monetize these videos. All we have are the products that we sell and the subscriptions that we get, and then people's contributions to the nonprofit Chiron Return. Okay, thanks for tuning in this week, and I look forward to meeting you back at Planet Waves FM a little bit later tonight, or whenever you happen to check in. All right, thanks for watching, and stay in touch.